If you've ever tried to follow a conversation with a MAGA Republican and wondered whether you accidentally tuned into a foreign language channel, bless your heart. You're not alone. Kentucky has plenty of dialects: Appalachian drawl, bluegrass twang, a little Louisville polish, but MAGA speak is something else. It's English with all the definitions swapped out, like somebody shook a Bible, a flag, and a conspiracy theory in a jar and called it communication. When a self-described patriot starts talking, it doesn't mean citizen pride. It means loyalty to Donald Trump, right down to storming the Capitol to prove it. MAGA patriotism isn't love of country, it's devotion to a personality cult wrapped in red, white, and grievance. And when a far-right activist shouts about freedom, that usually means the freedom of white Christian men to control everyone else's choices. Guns for all, rights for some. Faith-based once meant churches helping the poor, but now it means Christian nationalists writing public policy between worship songs. When GOP legislators call America a Christian nation, they aren't talking about kindness or compassion. They're talking about a theocracy with better lighting, one where Jesus votes straight-ticket Republican and the Sermon on the Mount gets flagged as Marxist literature. Traditional values is another favorite. In translation, that's the 1950s minus the pensions, unions, and high taxes on the wealthy. Kentucky politicians love that phrase. It sounds homespun while quietly erasing everyone who doesn't fit the mold. The same crowd touting family values isn't fighting for affordable child care or parental leave. It's the set of lawmakers condemning drag queens while filing divorce papers of their own. If hypocrisy were an Olympic sport, the Kentucky GOP would bring home gold, silver, and bronze, all sponsored by dark money. Small government gets a lot of applause at campaign rallies. Republican strategists love to say government should stay out of people's lives, except when it comes to women's bodies, school libraries, or who gets to marry whom. They'll shrink the safety net and expand the surveillance. In MAGA logic, government is small enough to drown in a bathtub, but big enough to crawl into your doctor's office. Parents' rights is another code phrase that swept through Kentucky school boards. In practice, it means conservative parents get to decide what every child reads. School choice sounds empowering, but it's a slow-motion demolition of public education, a way to funnel tax dollars into private, often religious academies. And patriotic education? That's history rewritten for white comfort. Lessons scrubbed clean of slavery, segregation, or anything that might ruffle a donor in the suburbs. When Republican sheriffs and candidates thunder about law and order, they don't just mean justice, they mean control. Law and order means arresting protesters and defending police no matter what. Election integrity means passing voter suppression laws while insisting democracy is under attack. It's like claiming to save the farm by burning down the barn. The Second Amendment rhetoric is its own religion. Every far-right group from Bowling Green to Pikeville treats it like scripture. Gun rights aren't about hunting anymore. They're about cosplay revolution, men in camo strutting through Kroger with assault rifles, convinced they're one blackout away from Lexington turning into Valley Forge. And then comes the deep state. To a MAGA loyalist, that means anyone who can read a policy memo without saluting Trump. Scientists, teachers, election workers, they're all part of some grand plot to keep reality intact. America first sounds patriotic until you realize democracy comes in dead last. It's nationalism with a fresh coat of fear. Cancel culture? That's just consequences finally reaching Republicans who thought accountability was for liberals. Now, Kentuckians know a hustle when we see one. The same politicians who shout, "Keep government out of our lives," are first in line for state contracts and federal handouts. The same party that preaches personal responsibility is owned by billionaires demanding tax breaks. MAGA Republicans have built an empire on linguistic fraud, turning words like freedom, faith, and family into camouflage for control. And once you learn to translate the code, it loses its spell. Faith-based means publicly funded ministry. Law and order means law for protesters, order for police. Traditional means stuck. It's a house of mirrors, familiar words marching in the wrong direction. Here in Kentucky, the trick doesn't play as well as it used to. Folks can smell the hypocrisy before the preacher finishes the verse. We know when a flag's being waved too hard, and it's usually to cover what the other hand's doing. The antidote to propaganda isn't shouting louder, it's speaking plain truth with a grin sharp enough to slice through the nonsense. So when a local official calls himself a patriot, ask whether he means defender of democracy or enthusiastic insurrectionist. When a state senator waxes poetic about family values, ask whose family he's valuing. When a candidate warns about woke indoctrination, remember he's talking about empathy, science, and books. Understanding MAGA speak isn't just entertainment, it's survival. Authoritarians rewrite dictionaries before they rewrite constitutions. Every democracy that failed started with a vocabulary lesson gone wrong. So keep your sarcasm polished, your humor local, and your definitions straight. The next time a Kentucky politician starts preaching freedom, smile sweetly, take a sip of sweet tea, and say, "Honey, I read the fine print." Because wrong here, plain talk means something, and democracy deserves words that tell the truth.